Talk about one of the biggest challenges facing those of us trying to build SaaS product businesses in 2026 in a bootstrapped way. And that is, how do you make what you're building defensible? Basically, how do you create a moat? Because AI has made it so much easier to build software so much faster and more cost effectively, doesn't that basically mean pretty much anyone can do it if you can do it? Well, that's the topic I want to talk about, but the short answer to that is basically yes. However, that doesn't mean that you still can't build yourself a moat, and I want to talk about different ways in which you can consider doing that today, even with what the technology itself is capable of, and the fact that the barrier to entry here has been lowered more so than it ever has been, meaning that just about anyone could probably do this now if they dedicate themselves enough, and of course, caveat that based on their background. My experience is such that I built a product to automate what was a bottleneck in the process of managing and doing the post-production work for podcasts. That tool is called Podcast Show Notes. You can find it at podcastshownotes.ai. Full self-service, low touch, mostly B2C, I would say, kind of SaaS product business. I created it years ago. I created that, and that was the foundation for what's become my free 5-day email course to kind of teach folks like yourself how you can get started and get from 0 to 1 as fast as possible, building a bootstrap SaaS business by selling it before you built it. And that's what I did in that case. However, having said that, I haven't really pushed that product that much further once I got it to that stage. And having said that, the product has been around for years and I still have active paying customers using it, and occasionally new people sign up, despite the fact that I really haven't developed the product that much further. So that's to say that, yes, the moat problem is real. However, for us, those of us building or desiring to kind of build bootstrapped SaaS businesses using AI, it doesn't mean that because that problem is real, it's going to affect us in a dramatically different or a significant way. And there's a couple of reasons why. Number one, I'm going to say that one of the biggest advantages you have is what the core of this technology is capable of, and that is building so much faster than has ever before been possible. What I mean by that is it's something you need to lean into and take full advantage of so that you can stay pretty far ahead of anyone else who's trying to innovate in your space. Wherever you find traction, you can continue to kind of maintain that advantage if you continue to lean into it by leveraging the technology and what it's fully capable of. Us as bootstrap SaaS founders, we're typically pretty small teams. A lot of us are teams of one. I am, which means that I can move as fast as I want to. I don't have anyone or anything slowing me down. So anyone else who's going kind of more of the traditional route, when I say traditional route, I mean like raising VC money or fundraising or whatever, that comes with a lot of admin, a lot of overhead, a lot to manage, bigger teams, more cooks in the kitchen, more vote, you get the idea, right? It slows the process down. And if you're a team of one, you don't have anyone slowing you down. The tech doesn't even slow you down anymore because AI is so capable. So in terms of the moat problem, while yes, that's still a challenge we need to handle for, I think it's lesser of a problem than most people realize. And I just gave you a couple anecdotes there. The podcast show notes tool that I built, it's been out there for years, and I still have paying customers despite the fact that it isn't under active development. It very well could be, but it's not, and I still have paying customers. So that could be built by anyone in a couple of hours using AI, but I still have paying customers using it still to this date. And the advantage that we have, given what the technology, how the technology empowers people like us, bootstrap SaaS founders, we can sprint so much faster than pretty much anyone and ever before by fully leveraging the technology. So those are a couple of key points I wanted to mention first. A couple of other ones. The second one is that just because other people can technically like enter in your space and build what it is you've built, bring it to market relatively quickly, doesn't mean that they will. In fact, in most instances, they don't. A lot of people have a lot of these things available to themselves and they swear they're going to do it, and it just doesn't ultimately materialize for one reason or another. So a bit of those fears may be overblown. I know I fall victim to this from time to time and worrying about these things, especially like competition and all that other kind of stuff. It's only natural for us to kind of feel that way. But in reality, most of the time, it doesn't become as big of an issue as we think it is. We have a tendency to think of those and they become a little bit more overblown than they realistically need to be. My podcast show notes product is a good example of that. The other key differentiator, and this is partly by design, or I should say it's at least a benefit of how we've designed what it is we want to do. Bootstrapping SaaS product is 100% for me. This content is for other people who are looking to do the same thing. And almost all of us, I would say in this case, are doing what I'm doing, is you're leveraging AI extensively to build those bootstrap SaaS product businesses. But because we're small teams and because we're not looking to raise money and all those other types of things, we are not looking to necessarily build $1 billion business. It doesn't need to be worth $1 bajillion, and we don't need to sell for that either. We may not necessarily need to sell ever. Our goals may financially may be to supplement our income. We may not even be looking to completely replace our income. But even if you are, again, it may not be an astronomical figure you need to make or sell for. I know I don't. My goals are different than that. But if I were raising money, VC or otherwise, right, those goals would change, right? They want us to capture all of the market if possible, or sell for $1 bajillion because it means they're going to maximize their return, right? So the incentives change and they shift. So that's just another advantage of building these SaaS product businesses in a bootstrapped way, and then be made even more effective by leveraging AI. So because you don't need to sell for $1 billion, that kind of helps you as well too. Basically what that means is if you're building SaaS product businesses in somewhat smaller spaces, which have limited market caps or limited potential to grow the business infinitely or to an astronomical figure, that's going to reduce the amount of competition you have in that space as well also. So you can go deeper and deeper into niches and you can find smaller spaces. You can crush it. And because it's a smaller space and you don't necessarily need to sell for $1 bajillion, you can make a decent living by focusing on that smaller space. And bigger players are unlikely to enter it because the juice is not going to be worth the squeeze in that case for them. The ROI just won't be there. They need to tackle problems, and they need to tackle bigger markets because they need to grow something that's going to be worth significantly more or need to be a lot larger. So that kind of protects you as well also. Okay, so to recap, in terms of the moat and defensibility challenges that we might face in our space, and made potentially significantly worse by how quickly and cost effectively AI can build software. Number one, you own the biggest advantage when it comes to what the tech is capable of, because no one's going to be able to move faster than you. If you're a single or small team founder that's bootstrapping your SaaS product businesses and leveraging AI, no one's going to be able to move faster than you. Once you get comfortable with the technology, they would simply not be able to catch you. So you can achieve that escape velocity and ride that as long as you would like to. In some instances, even if you don't, like in the case of my podcast tool, it hasn't really been a big problem for me. So that may happen as well also. The second one, human psychology is always a factor. Just because other people can doesn't necessarily mean that they will. And my experience is such that a lot of times they don't. There's also going to be a lot of people who are going to be focusing on stuff that's not consuming this kind of content like you are, and that means that they're probably not learning as part of this process as well too. They're trying to take shortcuts, they're trying to jump to the end, and it requires a lot more discipline, a lot more work than that in order to do these things successfully. Despite the fact that AI can do a lot, it's still technically challenging, and there's things that you need to do in order to do that correctly. Otherwise, you're just going to be slowed down the entire time, and you may not ultimately ever wind up getting there. So human psychology gets in the way, and folks are always looking for shortcuts. So if you're putting in the time, if you're doing this the right way, if you're consuming content like this and trying to get better, you're already ahead of the game, and that protects you as well. And the third piece is, as nice as it would be, you probably don't need to sell for $1 billion. You can probably sell for a lot less than that when you reach, scale with your potentially respectively smaller market. And that could be a life-changing amount of money for you, which is a mere fraction of the number that I mentioned. So you may not even be looking to entirely replace your whole income, right? But my point is that you can compete in smaller spaces where there is significantly less, maybe sometimes not even any competition, or maybe no one is even looking at that space. That protects you as well also. And that is an advantage of ours for a bunch of reasons, mostly because we're deciding to do this in a bootstrapped way, but also because of what the AI and other technologies here that we're leveraging are capable of. So you can use those things to capitalize on finding problems we're solving, but in much smaller spaces where there's going to be less competition. Okay, that's it for the content. Please like, subscribe, or leave a comment. If you have any feedback, that helps me make it better for you.